This is Heliox, where evidence meets empathy. Independent, moderated, timely, deep, gentle, clinical, global, and community conversations about things that matter. Breathe easy, we go deep and lightly surface the big ideas. Welcome to the deep dive. We grab a whole stack of sources, dive right in, and basically pull out the best bits for you, the surprising stuff, the important stuff.
Yeah, the things you really need to know.
Exactly. And today, our mission is looking at living a long, healthy life. But the sources, they make this really crucial point right away. It's not just about living longer. It's about extending your health span.
Right. And health span, the way they define it, it's about the years you live free from disease, free from disability, really living well.
They use that great example, Mrs. LR, 98 years old.
98. And still driving herself around, living on her own, had this amazing social life.
It really paints a picture, especially when you contrast it with her own family members who, sadly, died much younger with chronic diseases.
That difference is exactly what got researchers thinking. It led to studies like the Welderly Project, trying to figure out, what's the secret? How do people like her do it?
And it feels like we're at a pivotal moment now, right? The sources talk about this huge shift happening.
Totally. It's this convergence of bioscience and information tech. Think genomics, AI, massive computing power. It's changing everything. Our whole expectation of what health span can even mean.
Okay, so let's dig into that. What's the absolute core idea we need to get about health span from these sources?
Well, it starts with that clear line you drew. Lifespan is just the total time you're alive.
Yeah.
Health span is how long you live in, like optimal health.
Good health. Like Mrs. LR, her health span almost matched her lifespan.
Exactly. And they lay out this framework, 5 key things driving it.
Right. Genomics, cells, digital, lifestyle, and the microbiome.
Yeah, and they all interact. It's not like they're separate buckets. What you do in your lifestyle directly hits your cells, your microbiome. It's all connected.
And this isn't something that just happened overnight, this revolution.
Oh, definitely not. The sources really emphasize that. This is built on, hundreds of years of science. Sequencing the genome, CRISPR, mRNA tech, AI language models.
Yeah.
These things took decades to develop.
So it's the culmination of all that work that puts us here now.
Precisely. It's why we can even start thinking about extending health span in these really new ways.
Okay, so we've got this exciting future unfolding, but based on what these sources say, what's the most powerful thing we can actually do right now, like today?
That's where lifestyle comes in. And the message is super clear. Lifestyle changes are currently the only properly validated way we have to actually reset your biological age in humans.
Wow. Okay, that feels like a huge takeaway. Forget the future tech for a second. What you do now is key.
Absolutely paramount.
So let's dive into lifestyle then. Diet first. These ultra-processed foods, UPFs, they get hammered in the sources.
They do, and for good reason. They explain UPFs aren't just processed. They're made using specific industrial methods, like extrusion, that fundamentally change the food structure, plus all the additives.
And the effect is they make you want to eat more.
Kind of bypasses your fullness signals.
Yeah.
They mentioned that Kevin Hall trial famous study, people eating the UPF diet just automatically ate about 500 extra calories a day, didn't even realize it, gained weight.
500 calories, and the health risks linked to them. It's a scary list.
It really is. Heart disease, metabolic problems, cognitive decline, certain cancers, sleep issues, depression, dementia. And get this, high intake, like more than 4 servings a day, linked to a 62% higher risk of dying from any cause.
62%. Wow. Makes you think about things like that Novier classification they mention for figuring out how processed your food is.
Yeah, it becomes pretty relevant.
What about other confusing bits of diet? Artificial sweeteners.
Yeah, the sources acknowledge it's confusing. Some studies raise potential flags, maybe glucose regulation, maybe microbiome changes with some sweeteners, but a big review didn't find strong evidence of overall risk in humans.
So maybe not as bad as we fear?
The general take seems to be they're way less concerning than actual sugar. Some, like stevia, seem perhaps safer.
Okay, and salt. We eat too much, right?
Yeah. In the U.S., average is about 3.5 grams a day. The link to high blood pressure is there, though how much it affects any one person varies. Cutting back helps, but the cardiovascular risk really seems to climb when you get above 5 grams of sodium daily, based on the data they cite.
Got it. Fats and proteins. Is it just about less is more?
Not really. For fats, the big message is quality over quantity. They actually caution about really high-fat keto diets potentially raising cholesterol or promoting fatty liver for some people. Contrast that with benefits seen in some plant-based lower-fat approaches.
And protein. We need it for muscle, especially as we age.
Absolutely crucial for fighting off sarcopenia, that age-related muscle loss. But here's the tricky part that the sources point out. Actually proving in long-term human trials that just eating more protein definitely prevents sarcopenia is really hard. Those studies are difficult to do well over many years.
Interesting. So there's debate about the optimal protein amount, too.
Yeah, there is. One concern raised is whether very high intakes of certain animal proteins, especially those rich in leucine, like over 1.5 grams per kilo per day, might actually fuel inflammation or atherosclerosis. It's complex.
So with all that nuance, what diet pattern gets the strongest backing in the sources for health span?
Plant-based eating patterns consistently come out looking really good. Strong links to lower risk of heart disease, some cancers, type 2 diabetes, better mortality overall, even positive changes at the epigenetic level.
And fiber is key there too, right?
Definitely. They mentioned a huge meta-analysis, 185 studies, just showing clear benefits from dietary fiber, which you naturally get tons of in plant-based diets.
Okay, so practical advice boils down to more plants, less UPFs. Anything else simple?
Well, given how hard things like long-term calorie restriction are and how confusing fasting trial results can be, they suggest a simpler approach might be better. Like eat an early dinner, try to finish eating 3 or 4 hours before bed, avoid those late-night calories.
Seems doable. What about AI for personalized diets? Is that ready yet?
Not really. Still very early days, according to the sources. They even share a personal story where an AI diet plan was just unappealing and potentially risky given an existing condition. Shows how tough it is for AI to get nuance and preferences right now.
Right. Okay, move off the plate. Exercise. Huge lever we can pull now.
Yeah, maybe the key proven intervention for health span right now. The data they cite is pretty amazing. That one big study, 650,000 people, brisk walking, 450 minutes a week, linked to living 4.5 years longer.
4.5 years, just from walking. What about the 10,000 steps thing? Is there science there?
It's interesting. The benefits start way lower, like 2,500 steps. They increase up to maybe 7,500, 800 steps. But yeah, a big UK study did find the lowest mortality risk around 9,000 to 10,500 steps a day. So maybe some truth to it. And speed matters. Brisk walking is better.
And lifting weights, resistance training.
Oh, critical. Not just for looking good. Strong links to lower all-cause mortality. There's that personal anecdote in there, too, about getting DEXA scans to track muscle and lifting 4 or 5 times a week. The mindset of strong and old, rather than just old.
Yeah, I like that. Makes sense that tracking body composition isn't standard care, but maybe it should be.
Seems like a missed opportunity, yeah.
Okay, what about our surroundings? Environment. Seems harder to control.
It can be. But there are some surprising upsides, just spending time in nature. The studies they mentioned show all sorts of benefits: lower blood pressure, better sleep, less stress, better immune function, even boosts cognitive function and lowers depression risk.
All that just from being outdoors.
Seems so. The magic number seems to be around 120 minutes a week for well-being. There are even tools like Nature Score to see how much green space is near you.
But that access isn't fair, is it? That's a health equity issue.
Absolutely. The sources make that point strongly. Lower income areas often have much less access to green space. It's another layer of health inequality.
And then there are the downsides. Environmental toxins. Sounds like a minefield.
It's pretty pervasive. Pesticides, air pollution, especially particulate matter, noise pollution, microplastics. They're finding microplastics everywhere now. Air, food, water, even inside our arteries, our brains. We've got potential links to neurodevelopmental problems.
And these exposures are tied to actual diseases.
Yeah, the sources list quite a range. Cancers, type 2 diabetes, cognitive issues, Parkinson's, autoimmune diseases, thyroid problems, infertility, heart disease. It's a broad impact.
Okay, rounding out lifestyle. Sleep, social life, mental health. Pillars, right?
Absolutely fundamental. Sleep is critical for brain cleanup, basically. Bad sleep long-term is strongly linked to cognitive decline, dementia.
How do we improve it?
Proven stuff. Physical activity, getting light exposure right, timing meals, avoiding late screens. Digital CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy online, is showing real promise as an accessible tool, too.
And the social connection piece. The data sounds almost unbelievable.
It's really stark. Loneliness and social isolation. The sources say they carry premature death risks similar to smoking, obesity, inactivity. Similar. Increases dementia risk, even lung cancer risk, according to big genetic studies. Physical touch helps too.
So hanging out with friends is literally a health behavior.
Pretty much, yeah. And mental health.
Yeah.
Well, we know rates of depression, anxiety, stress are high, especially after recent years. Chronic stress isn't just mental. It has physical consequences, linked to things like cancer spreading faster, accelerated aging.
AI is creeping into mental health too.
Yeah, wearables tracking mood patterns, chatbots. But it's early days. Still very subjective, hard to measure accurately.
Okay, so lifestyle is our powerhouse now. But the tech revolution is coming. Let's talk about the new tools tackling the big chronic killers.
Right, moving beyond just lifestyle. And the sources kick off with a massive one. GLP-1 drugs.
The Ozempic, Wegovy type drugs. Huge buzz.
Huge buzz. And a wild origin story from Gila monster venom. But their mechanism is fascinating. It's not just appetite. They signal satiety before you even eat much. Slow your stomach emptying. Talk to your brain's appetite and reward centers via the gut.
So it affects cravings, too.
Seems like it. Even beyond food trials, looking at alcohol, tobacco, gambling addiction. And the effects. The weight loss is dramatic, like similar to or even better than gastric bypass surgery in some trials.
But it's more than weight loss, you said.
That's the critical part the big trials show. Significant reduction in heart attacks, strokes, independent of how much weight someone lost. Plus, benefits for kidneys, liver, massive improvements in sleep apnea might change how we treat that, lower cancer risk in type 2 diabetes patients, fertility boost, potential positive effects on autoimmune disease, depression, even aging markers.
They sound like miracle drugs. What's the catch?
The huge glaring catch is cost and access. The sources really hammer this. $1,350 a month in the U.S. versus under $150 in Canada, under $100 in the U.K., and the manufacturing cost. Maybe $5 a month.
That difference is staggering.
It's creating massive inequity. The people who could benefit most often, people of color, lower socioeconomic status, just can't get them. Even with insurance, copays can be too high. Plus, the side effects, mainly gastrointestinal, are real. A lot of people stop taking them because of that.
Okay. Briefly, metabolic syndrome and type 2 diabetes. Linked, obviously.
Yeah, and metabolic syndrome is often missed, but carries high mortality risk even if you're not overweight. The sources say only 7% of Americans are metabolically healthy. That should be ringing alarm bells. For TTD, treatment is complex, lots of drugs, but there's excitement about predicting risk much earlier using genetics and blood proteins, new meds, maybe even prevention using microbiome strategies, GLP-1s, or vaccines against certain viruses.
Right. Cardiovascular disease still the #1 killer.
Still #1, but also, as the sources stress, highly preventable, like 90% preventable with lifestyle. Though worryingly, mortality rates have ticked up recently.
And our understanding is evolving, not just plumbing.
Definitely not just plumbing anymore. The modern view is chronic inflammation throughout the body and the immune system kind of turning on itself. That's key to atherosclerosis.
What about new ways to detect it earlier?
Lot happening there.
Oh, yeah.
AI finding signs on scans done for other things, opportunistic imaging. Looking at blood vessels in the eye, epigenetic clocks, polygenic risk scores. These can predict statin benefit, maybe motivate you to change habits. Simple blood tests for inflammation like HS-CRP. Wearables getting better at spotting arrhythmias like AFib.
And treatments beyond statins?
Yeah, PCSK9 inhibitors, new RNA drugs for triglycerides. And targeting inflammation directly complex, though. The CANTOS trial showed hitting inflammation reduced heart events and cancer but increased fatal infections. Colchicine also cut heart events but raised pneumonia risk. So it's tricky. And GLP-1 seem to reduce AFib, too.
Okay, cancer. Scary projection. 77% increase globally by 2050.
It's a sobering number. And metastasis, cancer spreading, is the real killer. They mentioned that weird findings circulating tumor cells seem more aggressive while we sleep.
And we need better screening. Current methods aren't great.
The sources argue yes. Classifying cancer just by organ, outdated. Molecular features are more important. And mass screening based on age misses a lot, especially rising cancers in younger people. Plus, high costs, false positives.
So what's the revolution here? Earlier detection.
It's about personalized risk using AI to combine genetics, health records, everything, and microscopic detection. That's the idea behind liquid biopsies, MCED tests.
Finding tiny bits of tumor DNA in the blood.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Detecting it when it's still microscopic. Huge promise. But the sources add a dose of reality. Right now, they're not great at finding early-stage cancers. We don't have proof yet from big trials that they actually improve outcomes, and they're not FDA-approved or reimbursed.
What about things like whole-body MRI scans?
Sources specifically caution against those for general screening. They only find bigger things, have a high rate of finding benign stuff, incidentalomas, that cause anxiety and more tests, and medical bodies generally recommend against them for screening.
Okay, treatment breakthroughs. Immune system seems key.
Hugely key. Personalized approaches like CAR-T therapy, engineering your own immune cells to fight your cancer, are showing amazing results in some blood cancers, even brain tumors. And personalized cancer vaccines, targeting the unique mutations in your tumor. Really exciting results in melanoma trials. AI is helping find new drugs too, predict who will respond.
But lifestyle still matters hugely for cancer risk, 40% preventable.
Absolutely. That 40% linked to modifiable factors is a big number. Still less than heart disease maybe, but significant. Diet comes up again, risks like high fructose corn syrup, potential benefits of certain foods.
And using drugs to prevent cancer.
We do that now for breast prostate, but the way we decide who gets them is pretty basic: age, family history. Contrast that with vaccines for HPV, or surgery for BRCA genes where we know the cause. The hope is to use better risk prediction, polygenic scores, other data to target prevention drugs much more effectively to those really at high risk.
Okay, shifting gears to the brain. Neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, they take decades to develop.
Decades. Alzheimer's starts with plaques, then tau tangles. Years, maybe 20 years, before memory problems show up, all while the brain is naturally changing with age.
And it's not just amyloid and tau causing it.
It's way more complex. Genetics point to immune pathways, cholesterol handling, blood supply issues, problems clearing waste. It's multifaceted.
What's the big breakthrough for detecting Alzheimer's earlier?
Blood tests. Finally. Things like pTau217 in the blood can signal high-risk years, maybe a decade plus, before symptoms. That's a game changer compared to spinal taps. Offers a real window to intervene. Plus, research targeting the main genetic risk factor, APOE4, maybe even gene therapy, and finding protective genes.
But the treatments, they've mostly failed.
Yeah, the amyloid drugs have a dismal history. The sources mention the whole Aduhelm controversy approved against expert advice, serious side effects, barely used. Newer ones like lecanemab show modest benefit, but still have side effect worries.
So prevention is absolutely paramount for Alzheimer's.
Massively important. Diet, again, especially avoiding UPFs, exercise, step counts linked, clean air, good sleep, social connection, all highlighted by the Lancet Commission and these sources. Even links being explored between things like shingles and Alzheimer's risk.
And Parkinson's.
Key features are alpha-synuclein protein buildup, inflammation. We're getting better at predicting it years ahead, using wearable sensors, tracking movement, even breathing at night, plus genetic risk scores. And new treatments in early trials look promising. GLP-1s again, fecal transplants, AI-designed drugs blocking alpha-synuclein, even senolytics.
CRISPR gene editing comes up too for genetic disease.
Yeah, the approval for sickle cell and beta thalassemia was a monumental step. Potential cures, progress on other conditions too.
But challenges remain. Safety, ethics.
Big time. Getting CRISPR safely into the right cells in the body is hard. Risks of off-target edits, immune reactions, even cancer risk from chemo needed for some approaches. And the ethical lines, especially around editing eggs, sperm, or embryos like the Heechiang-Kui case, are huge and need careful global rules. On the plus side, rapid gene sequencing is starting to help diagnose rare diseases fast, even during surgery.
Last disease category, autoimmune, affects a lot of people.
Over 10% of us, 80 different conditions, often treated with broad immunosuppressants, lifelong drugs with risks, and they don't always work great. More common in women, and we're learning more about potential triggers genetics like the ZIST molecule, viruses like Epstein-Barr for MS, Coxsackie for type 1 diabetes.
And the goal is changing, not just suppression.
Right. The goal is restoring tolerance, teaching the immune system to chill out, basically. New approaches involve engineering cells, MAG-RT for lupus, engineered tregs for diabetes, RAMS to specifically target the disease drivers, maybe deliverable via mRNA nanoparticles someday.
Microbiome again. Important here too.
Critically important. It shapes our immune system everywhere. The gut-brain axis is real. They even mention it influencing exercise motivation. And microbiome strategies worked in that long COVID trial. Specific diseases like type 1 diabetes are seeing progress in prediction, new targeted therapies, even vaccines. For RA, better prediction, new drugs. The MS Epstein-Barr link is huge. Raises hope for a vaccine like the HPV one.
Okay, so we've covered lifestyle, tackling specific diseases. The final frontier is tackling aging itself.
That's the ultimate prize, right? But the sources are clear.
Yeah.
This is complex, early days, lots of hype.
What does modulating aging even mean biologically?
It's about targeting the underlying processes, that accumulated damage. The sources mention the hallmarks of aging, things like chronic inflammation, microbiome shifts, faulty waste disposal, genomic instability, stem cell decline.
Key areas being targeted.
Epigenetic changes are one. using Yamanaka factors to reprogram cells, make them younger. Shown to work in animals. Big challenge. Cancer risk if you do it systemically. But maybe pulse treatments or targeting specific tissues like the eye in that glaucoma trial could work.
And senescent cells, the zombie cells.
Yeah, they stop dividing but hang around spewing inflammatory stuff. Senolytics are drugs to clear them out. They do reduce senescent cells in humans, and early trials show potential benefits in fibrosis, COVID, eye disease, maybe Alzheimer's. Can cause temporary inflammation as the cells break down, though. AI is helping find new senolytics faster.
And this idea of biological versus chronological age, the clocks.
Right, epigenetic clocks,
So-
Horvath, Finnowage, Grimmage, Dundon-Pace measure that biological wear and tear. But the really cool, maybe surprising insight from protein studies, different organs age at different rates in the same person.
So you could be a heart ager.
Exactly, or a brain ager. And that specific organ aging predicts your risk for diseases in that organ system. The bigger the gap between your biological and chronological age overall, the higher your mortality risk.
Can we actually do anything about our biological age clock now?
Well, guess what the sources say is the only validated way in humans right now? Exercise. Again, they strongly warn against unproven commercial stuff, like young plasma infusions. FDA warned about those. There's early work on targeting aging in specific organs, like ovaries, but it's very preliminary.
Okay, this has been incredibly rich. Before we wrap, let's hit those major obstacles again. Widespread health span for everyone. What's stopping us?
The biggest one, hammered home in the sources, is health inequity. If these amazing advances from GLP-1s now to gene therapies later are only for the rich, it just makes existing disparities way, way worse.
And the U.S. system is a particular problem.
Yeah, lacking universal health care makes it much harder to roll out these things equitably compared to other wealthy nations. Access to health care is framed as a civil right that needs fixing.
And we need to be wary of the hype. Demand good evidence.
Absolutely critical. So much irrational exuberance, as they put it. Commercial tests like whole-body MRIs, supplements without proof, young plasma. We need solid proof from large, randomized trials that benefits outweigh harms before jumping on board.
So bringing it all back to you, our listener, what's the message for today?
It's pretty clear, I think.
Mm-hmm.
The revolutionary tech is exciting, but it's mostly not here yet or not accessible. The most vital thing you can do right now is double down on those lifestyle factors. Diet, exercise, sleep, nature, avoiding toxins, social connection, mental well-being. That's your power today.
Build that strong foundation now, so you're ready for the future breakthroughs when they arrive and hopefully become accessible.
Exactly. Like the analogy they used, hanging in to be ready for the next generation of health span interventions.
And the vision is hopeful, right? A future with more elderly people.
Yeah, a future where people like Mrs. L are vibrant and contributing deep into old age are the norm, not the exception. A future the author hopes to be part of.
It's a powerful goal, individually and for society. Well, we've covered a lot. From understanding health span, the power of lifestyle today, the incredible new tools for chronic diseases, GLP-1s, cancer therapies, Alzheimer's insights, autoimmune progress, all the way to the cutting edge of aging biology itself.
Yeah, and balancing that amazing science with the real-world hurdles. Cost, access, the absolute need for good evidence, and these wider societal challenges.
It's a landscape of huge promise, but also, complex realities.
For sure.
So maybe the final thought for you to take away, based on everything we've heard from the sources, given the power you have now with lifestyle and the potential but maybe uncertain access to future tech, what's the single most impactful step you can take starting today to invest in your own health span?
That's the question, isn't it? Worth some thought.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you feel informed, maybe a bit inspired, and definitely curious about what's next for extending not just life, but healthy life.
Thanks for listening today. 4 recurring narratives underlie every episode: boundary dissolution, adaptive complexity, embodied knowledge, and quantum-like uncertainty. These aren't just philosophical musings, but frameworks for understanding our modern world. We hope you continue exploring our other podcasts, responding to the content, and checking out our related articles at helioxpodcast.substack.com.